sorry, wrong agenda. Committee of the Whole meeting for August 8th, 2023 to order. Please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchak?
Here.
Alderman Talaco? Here. Alderman Meyer? Here. Alderman Hancher?
Here.
Alderman Bach?
Here.
Alderman Parrish?
Here.
Alderman Schneider?
Here.
Alderman Gebhardt?
Here.
Mayor Nurbin?
Here. Next up, we have approval of the meeting minutes from July 21st, and there's a amendment to the minutes sitting in front of you. Just expanded the discussion, actually recorded a bit of the discussion we had on the potential residential uses in the existing central area where the business park is now, just so that's reflected in the minutes.
Move approval as amended.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or corrections? Alderman Gephardt.
I'm assuming that's an approval based on the amendment?
Approval as amended. I would assume so, yes. Okay, thanks for that clarification. Good question. Hearing no further comments or questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. First up, we have Resolution 4059, a resolution amending the City of Mequon financial policies to include a policy statement number 18 regarding payment card acceptance. Director Engraff will give us an overview.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. We'll get started. So accepting payment cards at City Hall has been a long time coming. I inherited the project a couple of years ago, or almost a couple of years ago. So I'm pleased to share that we're in a good position, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to implement by or before the end of the year. So if we just run through the agenda, we'll kind of give you a picture of how we currently accept payment cards. We conducted an internal survey, so we'll share those results, as well as a couple of logistical items. And then we'll go through our technology selection process. And then we'll walk through a few items from the draft financial policy, which we're seeking approval for this evening. And then we'll address the fiscal impact and any questions that you may have. So if we take a look at how we currently accept payment cards, we do for online utility payments, brush permits, as well as property taxes. We also do point of sale at the pool via Square, and as you can see, we have all different vendors for each solution. The only, I guess, difference I would say between these four different revenue categories is that for the pool, the city absorbs those fees, so it's just under $2,000. This is the fourth pool season that we've been doing that. Otherwise, all the fees are being charged back to the customer. One other thing that I'd like to point out that we currently do is for utility payments, we do offer automatic ACH. At no cost to the customer and no cost to the city. In fact, we just did a customer campaign about a month or two ago that coincided with the Q2 utility bills, in which we educated customers regarding their different payment options, and we also asked for their current contact information, so email addresses, phone numbers. And we're pleased to report that it was a great success. We estimate that we received about a 50% response rate. Many of those paying in check form have converted or will be converting to automatic ACH, and then many provided us with their contact information so that we can better serve them. So we are very excited about that. Okay, moving on to the survey results. So this was, so we first, since I've been with the city, we first brought the topic to Finance Personnel Committee. That was last fall. And so we kind of gave a pulse check on where we were, where we had left off, or where my predecessor had left off, and we received some feedback. And one of the items was, okay, what do other municipalities do? So we surveyed, and Marie took the initiative on this one, surveyed all of Ozaukee County, and then also a few other areas outside of Ozaukee County due to relationships that we have. And so there were 13 municipalities that we received information from. And so, there were a number of pages contained in the packet, but we're just going to condense it down to some of the most relevant things that we got from the survey. So one of 13 communities does not accept payment cards in any way, shape, or form for any type of revenue. 3 of the communities don't accept payments at City Hall. So we're kind of we're in the minority with that 1 and that 3, and that we don't accept payments at City Hall, although we do accept other form for like the utility payments online and the brush permits, as well as property taxes. We learned that most municipalities are charging the majority of fees back to the customer. And most municipalities have more than one credit card processor. They all charge different fees and offer different services. So many have more than one card processor. The larger communities utilize Tyler Munis as their financial system. Tyler is a robust system with a lot of functionality and can handle large volumes of transactions. And of those 3 communities, 2 of them use Tyler Payments for a fully integrated payment solution. Moving on to a couple of the logistical items. One is the location. So we currently have a cash register at City Hall within the finance department. And then we also have one at the safety building within the police department. And then we do not have a cash register at the Public Works building, but we do receive in payments and write out manual receipts, and then that paperwork is brought over to the finance department to process throughout the week. But we are looking to better serve customers and thought that we should have a credit card terminal at the Public Works building. So we're looking at 3 locations to have the capability to accept payment cards. And then moving to fees, this was one area where we had some feedback from the committee as well, in that the transactional fees should be charged back to the customer. That was one theme that came from that, which is consistent with the survey results. Also, there was a thought that, if the city is covering something, it shouldn't be benefited by few, it should be most or all. And then we have the one-time setup fees for the process and the technology, as well as the annual maintenance associated with that. So we have built into the policy that the city would absorb those fees. Moving on to the technology selection process. This too was a feedback that we received last fall. We went to the FMP discussion with a Tyler Munis quote, and it was limited to Tyler Munis. So we wanted to look outside of that. So it was, okay, we bid everything else throughout the city. We need to do the same here for this process. And so the baseline requirement for us was that we find a technology that is integrated. We didn't want to have 2 different systems, not talking to each other, requiring a lot of manual intervention when we have limited resources and staff. And in today's day and age, we're trying to do things more efficiently. And so we started with 3 of the payment solutions or processors that we're already currently using. The Govolution, the Point and Pay, and Square, but quickly became aware that they're not going to integrate with Tyler Munis. And then Express Bill Pay, as well as Global Payments Integrated, we thought them to be viable third-party options. However, we learned after talking to Tyler that Global Payments Integrated is really the only option in terms of a third party that they would work with. They've offered other third parties in the past, but had a lot of issues with them. So, but then after talking to Global Payments Integrated, they are only compatible with older versions of Munis. So, and if council recalls, we just upgraded at the end of last year several versions. So we're now on a 2021 version. So it's not compatible with the version we're on. So Tyler Payments is really the only option for a fully integrated solution. Okay, moving on to the financial policy, the draft that you have in your packet and that we're seeking approval on this evening. So it covers a number of topics, including the costs associated with accepting payment cards, how to recording the transactions, how to refund a customer, and handling disputes. But I would say, the core of the financial policy and the most important piece is the PCI compliance, the payment card industry compliance, where we need to protect the cardholder data. So there are 12 universally accepted requirements established by the major credit card companies a number of years ago, probably 20 years ago, for those who store, accept, transmit credit card information or payment card information. And so as long as we're working with a compliant credit card processor, we're already largely in compliance with those 12 requirements. So that greatly reduces our exposure. But also there are some things built into the financial policy that we're seeking approval for that I think further minimizes our risk or exposure, which includes, we're not storing credit card information. We won't be writing it down. We won't be accepting payments over the phone. So I think all those things further minimize our risk of, And so we learned that it's going to be a 3-month implementation at a very minimum. And we identified, okay, we may have some lagging PCI items that need to be addressed. The one that comes to mind is just establishing an information security policy. Otherwise, we're in a pretty good place, but we will. The plan is to work concurrently to implement the process as well as address those PCI items. But we will not be moving forward until we have those things addressed. But we don't also want to lose any time, so we want to get working on both of those things. Okay, getting to the end here, the fiscal impact. So good news is we already have $5,000 built into the budget. And that was factoring in potential training or implementation costs, but we aren't going to have any of that with Tyler payments. So it's really the non-recurring setup costs for each of the 3 devices for about a total of $1,250, and then the cost of maintaining those devices, which is about an annual cost of $540. And then, of course, the transactional fee, we're recommending that it goes to the customer. And so, I would say that this plan isn't necessarily perfect to have so many different credit card processors, but we're trying to focus on filling the gap, and the gap being that we don't accept credit cards in person at City Hall, at DPW, at the Public Works Building. And so, it'll probably make sense down the road to revisit this process, to potentially consolidate, to consider absorbing some of the fees, especially if we start transacting more business online, with the business licenses module that's going to be implemented, the land management system. And so, ultimately, we'd love just to get this approved so that we can keep the momentum going and hopefully by the end of the year have it in place so that we can start the year being able to accept credit cards. Otherwise, I think it will probably, due to other demands and high priority projects, including the budget and the tax season, tax collection season, and year end and audit and all those good things, it probably would get pushed to next summer to implement. So that's all that I had prepared. We welcome any questions that you might have.
Thank you. And I saw a question from Alderwoman Schneider.
I just have a quick question. The IVR fee is what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interactive voice response. So that is a phone payment option. We would not be accepting, so if you call into City Hall, the finance department, we won't take those payments over the phone, but it is a service that we can offer and that we would recommend offering to customers if they do want to go that route. So it's an automated, and there's no risk to us. We won't be writing down credit card information or anything like that. But we would recommend that we turn that service on to our customers.
And also, what proportion of payments are currently made in person as opposed to online? Just ballpark.
Do you want to turn on your mic?
So, for utility, 2244 was the number of transactions for 2022. I'd say we send out almost 10,000 bills per quarter. So, 2,200 for the year, and there's about 40,000 bills. That's a pretty low percentage currently.
Alderman Parrish.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Engroff. Nice job. This is exactly the process to come to the right conclusion. I don't know why we wouldn't approve this tonight. I know Alderman Bushy would be very happy we were proceeding with this. This was his last parting wish that we would do this right away, and so he'll be happy. My only requests are just to make sure that the dog and pet licenses, this whole system will flow. Like, make sure we're designing that up front for like brush permits and dog and pet licenses. And then the final piece is, per our strategic plan, is essentially event management through the Parks Board so that we can rent out our parks more efficiently online. So all this has to connect and flow and people be able to pay online. So just as you're designing this, it's very complex and we appreciate that you're on top of it. But those are things to factor in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Bach.
Just a tangential question on the, since everybody has to pay taxes, is there plans to do ACH transactions, via the web for taxes, or can you do that? I know in some municipalities you can do that, you've been able to do that. Is that something that we're working on or thinking about?
I don't know that it has ever been considered in the past, but certainly something to consider and look into. We'll take note of that.
Yeah, I remember because I had to pay my father-in-law's taxes in Wauwatosa, and it's really easy to do. You just go online and do an ACH transaction, and it's done in 5 minutes. So,
Okay.
As you're looking at it, no pressure.
Sure.
Certainly a good comment. Any way we can make it easier for folks to interact with us at the city, save a trip into the city hall, that's benefit to everyone. Alderman Meyer.
Not using it at the pool, is that just an infrastructure issue, or not be, you're going to be using Square at the pool,
Using Square at the pool,
but
right.
not incorporating it with
Not
Tyler.
incorporating it with Tyler payments. No, it's
Is that an infrastructure issue for that?
right.
or-
We would have to get a register, a card reader out there. The process works. We don't feel as though we need the detail behind that. It's kind of a one and done transaction. Whereas, here at City Hall, it's often reoccurring business and we might need to refund them. But yeah, we think the process works and yes, it is partially an infrastructure. So we're trying to keep it simple for now, anyway. Short season as well.
Any other questions or comments? I'm happy this is progressing. We've all wanted it for a couple years. I know we've been busy, but if we've got a gap of staff availability now, I think we should move forward and keep the momentum going, just like you asked for. I guess we do need a formal recommendation for council so we can vote on it again in the half an hour. Any further questions? Otherwise, all's in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Do we need a motion?
Move
I would
approval.
move second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Now the same question. All's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That moves on to the council. Next is a discussion on the Southern Ozaki Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department. The chief's going to give us an update on how things are going so far this year.
So I was asked to talk about a few things tonight. So we'll talk about operations, administration, and finances in the 14 minutes I have left. So first of all, as we sit today, 2023, we have Well, I blacked out. We have 12 full-time people. We have 7 firefighter paramedics, 3 battalion chiefs, a deputy chief, and a chief. The ones you can't see, the blacked out positions, those are the full-time people. Every day we try to staff 7 people, 4 on the west side, 3 on the east side. So for the very first column there's a battalion chief, 3 full-time people, and 3 paid on call. On the next shift, you have the battalion chief, 2 full-time people, POP position, which is a part-time paramedic, and then 3 POCs. And that's where we're at. That one of those POP positions is actually Josh Lip, who's a gentleman that was injured back just before Christmas on that accident on the freeway. He still has not returned to work, but we have a position there if he comes back someday. And the other POP position, we interviewed 5 people earlier this year to hire. We hired 2 people, and the other 3 people that we offered a job to, I'll turn it down. So we're just continuing with putting the POP in that position for the rest of the year. Back in January, the SOFD board approved a hiring process for full-time and paid-on-call people. With that, we hired our battalion chief, which had been vacant since October. We hired the 2 full-time firefighter paramedics I talked about, and 12 new paid-on-calls. And what's significant about that is all 12 of them are actually live in the city. I think 5 are from Concordia students, but that's a big deal for us that we got community members. So Rick Lemke, we made him the battalion chief back in May, and Wesley Reimer, who was a paid-on-call in Mequon, who was a paramedic, we hired him as a full-time firefighter paramedic, and Garrett Gross was a volunteer in Thiensville, and we made him a full-time firefighter paramedic. So we grabbed people from each of the 2 communities. This here, our schedule, this year in 23, we've only had 1% of our shifts unfilled, which comes out to about 470 hours for the year. Last year, we had 16% unfilled, and if you've been playing along for a long time, in 2021, we were at about 24% was unfilled. And most of the filled shifts in 2022 was because we combined the 2 departments in July. We started operating together, so we were able to come up with that 16%. So the 1% doesn't come without a price, though. We've had to use overtime to fill some of the shifts, usually on weekends, but it's nice to have some career people to choose from to get them to fill the shifts. So that's been very helpful to us. Back in January 1st, Ozaki County took over dispatch for us. It was seamless as far as the fire department goes. We had to change some of our workflow in as much as Ozaki County now does dispatching for all 8 fire departments, except for Cedarburg during the day. So the dispatchers only want to do things one way, so we had to change some of the things we did to make it all work out, but it's working well. In 2023, as part of the IGA, we're supposed to work on our fleet consolidation. We've done that. We know what we want. We know what we want to get rid of. We sold 2 staff vehicles, a boat, a tanker truck we sold for $48,000, and in 1989 it was $84,000. So if somebody would have had forethought, we would have bought 2 of them back in 1989. And currently for sale, we have 1 fire engine and 1 ladder truck, which is on like a broker website for people who are looking for that kind of equipment. If they don't sell, then we'll put them on the auction site. Probably get much less for them there, but we have high hopes that it'll work out. Administration, the IGA, about 2 months into the Southern Ozaki Fire Department, the administrator realized that I did not have a direct report, so he wanted to make that right. So now I report directly to the fire chief reports directly to the city administrator in Mequon. And tonight you're going to vote on increasing the board for the SOFD from 5 members to 7 members. We have a grievance policy for anyone who feels that they've been aggrieved. We have just recently some of the full-time members petitioned to have a union. The SOFD board met and they said if they want a union, that's fine, but we want everybody in, the full-time people and the paid-on-call, because we don't want a division between the 2 groups. So that's still ongoing. There'll probably be a hearing to see what's going to happen. We have pretty good insight that that they'll have to take everyone if they want to do it. And then we'll deal with it, whatever happens. Mequon is our fiscal agent for the Southern Ozaki Fire Department for payroll processing. We at the fire department still collect all the pay sheets. We go through our database, figure out who worked how many hours, doing what training, coming for calls, and we send an Excel spreadsheet to Mequon, and they cut us the checks. We still, at Southern Ozaki, we still take care of accounts payable and accounts receivable through Quicken for small businesses. We do our onboarding and HR. Justin here has been a real help with our HR stuff, and Julia still helps us out with our onboarding when we need it. Something else that happened, in 2022, we applied, Mequon and Thiensville both applied for something called a Flex Grant with ARPA funds from the state. We were awarded between the two communities $200,000. So we've been busy, first we gave the $200,000, then they called us and said, you can't have it because you're no longer Mequon and Thiensville. We argued with them and they said, okay, you can have the money. So in busy spending the money, we had to buy a narcotic storage vault system and tracking software, because if the DEA comes in, you have to tell them where all your narcotics are. We had a system, but it was old and very expensive. We bought 2 Zoll cardiac monitor defibrillators, which are about $45,000 a piece. Mequon and Thiensville use different equipment, so now we're all the same. We bought some durable medical supplies. We have some wireless dispatching terminals that we're in progress of putting into the vehicles, which will eliminate the need for us and other communities to talk so much on the radio. You can just push a button and that will send whatever it does to dispatch, and more of our records will be electronic. So again, less work for the county and better for us, because we'll get real-time information if they dispatch or they update the information on the call. We bought a power load cot, which is the thing you put the patient on. The biggest cause of injuries in a fire service are back injuries, and it's usually from lifting. And EMTs and paramedics, their biggest workers' comp claim is on back injuries. So a power load cot, not only does it put the patient on it, lift it up, it also like sucks it in the machine into the back of the ambulance. It's got like a tail hook on it, pulls it right in, so you don't have to do any lifting. And we spent some money on our jackets, our PPE. Our mission, vision, and values in March, the board wanted the SOFD to come up with a new mission, vision, and values. Lynn Streeter, you may remember from the Future Our Fire Department, helped us out. We met with the membership in May at the firehouse. We met in the basement. We had 32 people. We voted on words and gave her ideas, and well, that worked out really well. Then we went out and interviewed some stakeholders, went and talked to other fire departments, talked to the hospital, care facilities. We talked to the police departments, and then we met with the membership again in July to let them know what we came up with. We took the mission, vision, and values to the board meeting in July, and they said good. Lynn was going to refine it some more. We've done that, and now we hope to have a final product for the SOFD board in September. Under finances, it's a $3.2 million budget. 57% of it comes in by revenue. We had a slow start through our billing process with a few snafus. Medicare isn't always quick to start up. It was nice having Lynn Streeter around. She used to do billing for hospitals or startup hospitals, so she kind of let us in on the process. We didn't send our first ambulance bill out until June 1st. And we got our first receipt on July 24th, and since July 24th, we've come up with $86,000. Now, 57% of 3.2 million is about 1.8. So we have a long way to go. However, 300,000 should come from the county and ARPA funding. I'll talk about that in a minute. 200,000 was for our 2% dues, and the rest, most of that's going to be ambulance revenue. Our expenses for 23, because we knew revenue was going to be slow, unless it keeps you breathing or stops you from bleeding, we haven't bought anything. We tried to minimize our expenses because we didn't know how long this was going to last. Cedarburg Fire Department wanted to start a paramedic program, so they signed an agreement with us whereby their paramedics would operate under our license until they hire more people and they find someone to run their program. It's about a 3-year agreement. So every year, that $80,000 was extra revenue that we weren't planning on for the next 3 years while they get their program up and running, or they may like us so much they may stay with us. The county had some ARPA funding that they offered up for hiring people. We've taken advantage of that. We just have not seen the money yet. The mayor and I attended a meeting back in July where they were talking about it. And our budget for 2024 is underway and will be done by September 13th. I'm done. 3 minutes left. How'd I do?
Thanks for catching us up. Any questions from the committee? As a good update, some of us are more familiar with it than others from also serving on that board and commission, but it's good to get the whole council here an update and hear how things are going. Any questions for the chief? Alderman Parrish?
Hey, Chief, welcome to the meeting.
I miss you.
Yeah, you too. Good report. Just wanted to congratulate you. 99% of the hours filled is exactly what the Common Council was hoping for with our investment and increasing, permanent on-call people or permanent staff people, while maintaining a commitment to the volunteer fire force as well. In the prior meeting here, we talked about the billings kind of lagging just because of the late start and the changeover, and it sounds like we're 75%, I guess, behind what we would hope for, which, eventually we'll get it. I guess I'm just thinking of it in terms of the budget cycle. So do you think the $1 million+ will be collected this budget cycle, or will we have to plug it until the money does come in?
I think we will, there's always about a 3-month lag, so whatever ambulance transport we do in October, November, December, probably wouldn't be received until 24, but I believe everything else from January 1st should start coming in before the end of the year.
So that could mean there's a 3-month shortfall then in this year's budget,
Again,
correct?
we've kept expenses way low, and I think we're going to make it. I have high hopes that our revenue, we took what we made in 21, what we projected we were going to make in 22 from both Mequon and Thiensville, combined them, sprinkled a little fairy dust on it, hoping it would get a little bigger, and that was our number, and I think we're going to make it.
It's probably also worthy to note that we've been measuring response time data, and we've made improvements to response times. We discussed the last meeting, and it's been especially true for Thiensville, which I know was a concern because we're typically responding from Mequon, not the fire hall in Thiensville. But thanks to having more people around, we're actually responding quicker in most instances. So it's true for both communities, but it's reassuring to our friends in Thiensville who are our partners in this endeavor. And then I think the chief was a little modest. He mentioned the stakeholder feedback we got as part of the mission, vision, and values exercise. That feedback was extremely complimentary and reassured us that we're not only doing the right things, but we're doing them the right way, and the community highly regards the institution. Both institutions and now the combined institution of SOFD. So that was pleasing to see as well. Any further questions? Seeing none. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate the update. Next, we're on to informational items. The Committee of the Whole planning calendar, which you should have in front of you. So we can see where we're at today on August 8th. Next month we can expect updates on sign code, everyone's favorite topic, and a water utility master plan, which has also been an item of interest over the last couple of years. And then you can follow the plan out into the future just to give us an idea of what's coming down the pike. Any feedback from the committee on any of those future topic items to discuss, or was what you want to see? Go
Mayor,
ahead.
I will just point out, originally on the calendar that appeared in last month's packet, there was scheduled to be an update on the expansion of the Lemke Park Pavilion for this evening. In conversations with the Director of Public Works, a decision was made at the staff level to hold off on that presentation tonight, pending the availability of further updated drawings from the architect hired by the city. So we would anticipate that if we have time in the September or October Committee of the Whole meetings, we may be coming back with an update to follow through on that original intent. So I just wanted to make that point clear here this evening. Obviously, we discussed credit cards and got an update on the Southern Ozaki Fire and EMS Department as originally scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other feedback on the preview of coming attractions? If not, does that bring us to our future policy items and for discussion and consideration that dovetails right in with the future work plan for this committee? Anything from anyone that we want to bring up at this time?
And just to reiterate how this process was envisioned when I spoke before you last in April, certainly there's an opportunity for any member of the council as a member of the committee of the whole to request or calendar a certain policy discussion or topic during this time, this designated time before the regular common council meetings on a monthly basis. So it can be as easy as an email, a telephone conversation, an in-person conversation, and if that makes its way to my office, eventually it will appear on one of these calendar documents that we're planning to include monthly in the committee of the whole packet. At some point, if a topic is identified by a particular council member, there may be some discussion at this level as to whether or not that rises to actually appearing on an agenda and energizing staff to do the necessary work in order to have a formal presentation before this group. But this is an open calendar, an open process, and if there's a brainstorm or a mindset on the part of any one committee member to bring something forward for further discussion, that can happen at any time.
Seeing no takers tonight, so we'll keep that in mind, though. We're trying to make this as a way to provide feedback and have discussion so we can figure out how to direct staff more effectively in the future. So we'll try doing things a little different way and see how it works. With no other comments, is there a motion
Move
to
to
adjourn?
adjourn.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now adjourned and will reconvene immediately as the Mequon Municipal Water Utility Commission. And why don't we call the roll?
Commissioner Strelchuk,
I thought she was leaving.
Commissioner Talaco, Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner Hancher,
Here.
Commissioner Bach,
Here.
Commissioner Parrish,
Here.
Commissioner Schneider,
Here.
Commissioner Gebhardt, Commissioner Nervin.
Here. First is approval of the meeting minutes from May 9th.
Move approval.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next are three discussion items. The first among them, a authorization of execution of an agreement for water service for the property at 6,000 West County Line Road to connect to the Village of Brown Deer water utility. Is there a motion or any discussion required? Why don't we give a quick overview?
Sure. This is a property that's on County Line Road. Our water mains are nowhere near here, about 16 blocks away from this particular location. Due to zoning of the land in this area, it's unlikely that we would have water main down there anytime in the near future. Recently, about a year ago, 5300 West County Line Road also approached the board and requested to be connected to the Brown Deer water utility, and the board extended that offer at that time. The staff feels that this is something we would recommend for this particular property, as Brown Deer has water main right in County Line Road.
Thank you. Yeah, we're 16 blocks away. Brown Deer's right across the street, so seems like a no-brainer to me.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item's approved. Next, we have an authorizing a memorandum of understanding with River Lake Homeowners Association for water supply for emergency response plan. this is something we haven't seen in a while, so maybe we've got some new members. Give a quick overview of this as well.
Sure. As part of working with the DNR, DNR identified that River Lake needed to update their emergency response plan. One of the tenets or things that the DNR likes to make sure is in place is backup water supply in case they have problems with their own water supply. The utility in the past, it started at We Energies when the utility was first, inception and started growing. They started absorbing water trusts, and kind of as a part of absorbing and bringing these water trusts onto the municipal water utility, we ended up getting into these emergency water supply agreements with these water trusts because they would have them between each other. And then as we acquired one of the water trusts, then we found out that, well, there was an interconnect agreement between the two, so the utility entered into these agreements. So we haven't done one in the past, but in the recent past, but we have several of these interconnection agreements, emergency water agreements. We have provided emergency water to water trusts in the past. In fact, Alberta Water Trust in Thiensville has connected several times to us due to issues that they had with their well, and ironically, we're meeting with them sometime in the near future to talk about the possibility of connecting them over. I think once they receive the water and understand, the quality involved, sometimes that's one of our better sales tools. We have put together this emergency interconnect agreement between the water utility and River Lake, and it's therefore we're recommending that we authorize this agreement.
Thank you. Any further questions from the Water Commission? Commissioner Parrish.
Yep, just me. Thank you, Director Voigt. I'm definitely in favor of approving this. It kind of just led to some other thoughts in my head. So do all the other HOAs have these emergency response on file where there's private water?
Yes, the
Okay.
DNR requires all public water utilities to have an emergency response plan. A lot of them, like, I'll give you an example, on the east side of the freeway, the water trusts over there like Beechwood Farms, Pines, Haddonstone, they all have agreements between each other. So there's valves there and they interconnect between each other if they have issues and things of that nature. So they just identify what will be your emergency plan for water supply should you have a problem with your water supply.
So they're each other's backup, and then the city is essentially all of their backups. They hook into a main when there's catastrophic failure, and then is there a limit? How like for Thiensville, that HOA, you're concluding that it would just be more economical for them to hook in. Will they pay that hookup charge as the developer, so to speak?
Could you pull your mic just a little bit closer?
Sorry.
I think it's on, but
Yes, it should be on. So we would hook up to systems that we have agreements with, and how it works is we have like a bulk water rate in our tariff that we then charge them for the water that they purchase, because we'll have a meter in line with the two hydrants that are interconnected. And then we also charge for staff's time to run out, obviously load everything up, get it on site, sanitize the hose. We have to obviously chlorinate and sanitize the hose before the interconnect, and then turn the system on and get it up and running. So there's two pieces of the puzzle. One is the actual rate that they pay, which is in our tariff, and then the other one is the staff time for setting everything up.
Great, but ultimately the developer would pay to hook in that case.
The homeowners association, the subdivision pays that cost, correct, yes.
Okay. But this agreement doesn't contemplate permanent failure of a well, and so that would be negotiated upon that situation. This is just for temporary emergency backup.
Correct, yeah, this is to get them through, like if they have a well failure, it's going to take them 3 days to get the pump out of the hole, fix the pump, put the pump back in the hole. This provides their residents with water until they can fix that catastrophic failure.
Great, thank you very much, and I would move to accept this emergency response plan for the River Lake Homeowners Association.
Second.
motion and a second. Thank you for that. Commissioner Meyer.
So it looks like the connection is going to go across the road then?
Yes.
So there's contingency plans then in case that's used for the police department and for notification, because I would assume that's a pretty good-sized hose that's going to be going across there.
Correct, it'd be a 2.5-inch fire hose, and the plan would be right now to notify the residents there's another way in and out of the subdivision to the north, so that we would just redirect them to the north, and we put barricades across the southern entrance where that hose is, so that people don't drive over it.
Okay. There's not like ramps that they can...
We do have ramps. I'm sorry, we don't own ramps, but if it becomes something that they would prefer to have ramps, then we would have the water trust acquire the ramps.
Okay.
Because it's for their convenience, not for the water utilities' convenience.
Okay.
Good questions. Thanks for those. Any other questions from the commission? We haven't seen one of these in quite a while, so
Yeah.
good opportunity to learn how things work. We have a motion and a second. Are there any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is also approved. Lastly, we have an authorizing the contract to replace 6 hydrants and 2 valves to UPI of New Berlin, Wisconsin, in the amount of $94,930. Maybe also a quick overview.
Sure. As part of our annual maintenance, I'm sure you've probably seen the operators around the utility either flushing hydrants and greasing and maintaining the hydrants, or turning valves and exercising valves throughout the system. We do that for twofold. One is, for flushing, obviously it's for water quality. We want to get any debris that's in the main out of the main. If there's any stagnant water, we want to remove the stagnant water. But the other thing that we're looking for is, these are all mechanical pieces of equipment. They eventually fail. So if we identify hydrants that are broken and we can fix them, we do the repairs. If we identify hydrants that are beyond repair, those need to be replaced. So we had identified, we've got more than 6, but we are going to replace 6 this year, hydrants in the system that are beyond repair that we want to replace with brand new infrastructure, so it's there for the fire department and for the water utility to utilize. We put together a bid package, bid it out. This is the results of the bid, and the money is available in our capital accounts, so we would like to move forward with making the repairs.
Thank you. Any further questions from the commission?
Move approval.
Motion and a second, I heard. Hearing or seeing no other comments, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that item is also approved. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned, and we'll immediately meet as the Sewer Utility District Commission. We can let the record show that everyone who was here before is still here now, and that brings us to approving the minutes of June 13th.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. Next, we have 3 resolutions. Resolution 4067, a resolution awarding a contract to rehabilitate 7 sewer laterals from external cleanouts in the Riverland Drive Lift Station H area to Aqualius of Green Bay, Wisconsin, for $123,027. Maybe Kevin would like to give us a quick overview of this work.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commissioners. This contract award before you is a continuation of sewer lateral work, where that is part of the city's ongoing efforts to stop leaks into the sanitary collection system, also referred to commonly as infiltration. This work is eligible for full reimbursement of contract costs by the MMSD as part of the city's program to reduce infiltration and inflow from private property sources. So the previous efforts have included investigation of with CCTV exams of the laterals to identify defects. Then those laterals were located, and then they were tested and sealed from the mains, and then there was cleanouts installed. And so this is the final stage of this sewer lateral work, the sewer lateral rehabilitation. And that's by air testing and sealing those joints and defects with grout to prevent infiltration. So this is the first contract to test and seal laterals from external cleanouts, and additional projects are anticipated.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Was there a question from Commissioner Gebhardt?
Yes, I have a quick question for you. I noticed that there was not contingency built into the to the number. Was that a mistake, or was that intended to be that way?
Yeah, the contingencies are built into the bid items themselves, rather than having a percentage on top of the contract amount.
Thank you.
Good question. Commissioner Bach.
Just a comment. It was interesting to see those two bids that came in and how different they were. I mean, the one that was an NPR that was $700,000. It seemed like a real outlier.
Agreed. It reflects the contractor's availability or interest in the work. There's two other contractors that are registered for this program that we were hoping would submit bids that did not. So in the future, we're looking to get our contract awards prepared earlier, so there's longer time for the contractor to complete the work. Typically, the longer the contract period is, the cheaper the work can be, so the contractor can fit it in rather than trying to jam it into an aggressive accelerated schedule. And the other bookend of it is our funding agreement deadline. So we're working, staffs in coordination with the MMSD on extending our funding agreement deadline to allow other contractors that have fully booked schedules to be able to bid on the work and not overcommit.
Two excellent questions. Thank you for those. Any further questions on this item? I think we heard there was a motion and a second. If there are no other questions, why don't we call a roll call vote on this?
Commissioner Strelchek? Commissioner Tlaco? Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Hancher?
Aye.
Commissioner Bach?
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish?
Aye.
Commissioner Schneider?
Aye.
Commissioner Gebhardt?
Aye.
Commissioner Nervin?
Aye. That item is approved and moves on to the council. Next is Resolution 4068, resolution approving award for a contract for the completion of MMSD post-sewer lateral rehabilitation reporting requirements in the Riverland Drive H and Riverland Park F lift station areas to R.A. Smith of Brookfield, Wisconsin, in the amount not to exceed of $39,062. Mr. Driscoll can give us another short overview, but I think it's very similar to the last item.
Correct.
Slightly different work.
Correct. So Aqualis had the contract in the previous item to complete the rehabilitation with grouting. And R.A. Smith is the consultant for this contract award to be able to complete the reporting requirements for MMSD so the city can get reimbursed for the funds for the Aqualis contract, in addition to other future contracts that were referenced.
Commissioner Parrish.
So do we get reimbursed for the application itself then, the 40,000, or is that not reimbursable from MSD?
The consulting fees in the amount of $39,062 are eligible for reimbursement by the MMSD.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. If there's no further comments or questions, let's call a roll on this as well.
Commissioner Strelchek?
Aye.
Commissioner Tlaco? Aye. Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Hancher?
Aye.
Commissioner Bach?
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish?
Aye.
Commissioner Schneider?
Aye.
Commissioner Gebhardt?
Aye.
Commissioner Nervin?
Aye. And lastly, Resolution 4069, a resolution awarding a contract for the inspection of 218 sanitary sewer laterals in the Ranch Road E lift station area to R.A. Smith of Brookfield, Wisconsin, in the amount not to exceed of $186,804. Sure, just a 30-second overview.
Sure. Real briefly, back in spring, Visasewer was awarded a contract to test and seal these 218 sewer laterals from the mains, and R.A. Smith will be performing inspection based on this contract award. And this is also eligible for reimbursement from the MMSD in the full amount of the contract.
And we're required to inspect the work that was previously done to make sure it was effective.
Right, so this would actually be the inspection during the work as opposed to completing the reporting post-work, which was the previous contract award. So it's just part of the requirements to be eligible for the reimbursement funding.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, let's call the roll on this final item.
Commissioner Strelchuk? Commissioner Tlaco? Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Hancher?
Aye.
Commissioner Bach?
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish?
Aye.
Commissioner Schneider?
Aye.
Commissioner Gebhardt?
Aye.
Commissioner Nervin?
Aye. That item is approved as well. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now adjourned and will reconvene as the Common Council. I'd like to call the meeting to order and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchuk?
Here.
Alderman Tlaco? Alderman Meyer? Alderman Hancher?
Here.
Alderman Bach?
Here.
Alderman Parrish?
Here.
Alderman Schneider?
Here.
Alderman Gebhardt?
Here.
And Mayor Nervin?
Here. First, we have personal appearances and public comment. Citizens wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time. If you desire to be heard on agenda items, you may be heard when that item is considered on the agenda. Please speak into the microphone at the podium. Time limit is 5 minutes. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak this evening about something not on the agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move on to public officials' reports. I have just one. One short month from now, we'll be having Taste of Mequon here out on the steps of City Hall, and I hope you're able to join me and hopefully many other members from council in celebrating, I think, our 10th year as Taste of Mequon. So it's our 10-year anniversary, and I'm excited. Will be good food, music, some art, and plenty of activities for the kids. So I hope you can make it and wish to see you there. Does the administrator have any comments?
Just one comment, Mayor, and before we get to the fun associated with the Taste of Mequon, we got to get going on the budget. And over the last couple of weeks, staff in our office has been polling the council to determine availability for a budget workshop meeting. We have a date, and so please mark your calendars for 3 weeks from tonight. Tuesday, August 29th, we'll be having our initial budget workshop meeting starting at 6 o'clock in this room. We'll be following up with an email to all members of the council later this week. And we're going to endeavor to do all of the budget workshop in one meeting. We put out a bunch of different dates. However, it didn't quite match up for the majority of the council. And so we're going to try and be efficient with everyone's time and have a really organized agenda and a meeting sequence planned out so that we can endeavor to get it all done in one night. If there's a determination made at that budget workshop meeting that there needs to be an additional meeting before you all convene as the Appropriations Committee in October. Certainly we'll have time to determine that and if necessary, schedule a second meeting sometime in September as the council may wish. So Tuesday, August 29th, 6 p.m. We'll follow up with an email here later this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. We have 9 sets of minutes from various boards and commissions and 2 resolutions. Is there any item someone would like broken out to discuss separately, or is there a motion to
Move to
approve them?
approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the whole bunch. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And those items are approved. That brings us to ordinance first readings. We have just one. Ordinance 2023-1653, an ordinance amending the City of Mequon operating budget for the fiscal year 2023 to adjust the budgeted amounts within the Department of Public Works due to unanticipated repairs and material costs in a net amount not to exceed of $36,576. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee, and it is a first reading. Next, we have resolutions. Resolution 4059, a resolution amending the City of Mequon financial policies to include policy statement 18 related to payment card acceptance. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Committee of the Whole. Is there a motion or any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that item's approved. Next is Resolution 4060, a resolution approving the following in connection with a reforestation and wetland restoration project at the Mequon Nature Preserve. A 20-year limited term conservation easement between the City of Mequon and MMSD, an intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the city and MMSD, and a memorandum of understanding between the city and Mequon Nature Preserve. There's a recommendation forthcoming from Public Works this evening.
The Public Works moved to approve it unanimously, and I'd just like to add that this is really an amazing boon to the Mequon Nature Preserve. We are getting free of charge over 40,000 trees, both big and small, for reforestation, so that will bring the Nature Preserve well ahead of its schedule for reforestation, and all this agreement is doing is doing an easement so that it says we're not going to be cutting the trees down, et cetera. So it's really great all the way around.
I agree, it's a big win and aligns perfectly with their mission. That was a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that resolution is adopted. Resolution 4061, a resolution following in connection with heating, ventilation, and air conditioning work performed by Dillett Mechanical of Waukesha, Wisconsin during fiscal year 2023, including an emergency repair of the City Hall HVAC system in the amount of $16,050, and B, annualized expenditures in excess of $25,000. There is also a recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Also unanimously recommended.
And
Move
motion
approval.
to approve. Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion needed on this item? Hearing or seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchuk,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
And that resolution is adopted as well. Next, we have Resolution 4062, a resolution ratifying the following in connection with electrical work performed by Giltzer Electric of Mequon during the fiscal year 2023, an emergency motor replacement and pump repair at the Mequon Community Pool in the amount of $9,678, and a change order in the amount of $6,438 related to the installation of new lighting in the library parking lot, and also annualized expenditures in excess of $25,000. Recommendation forthcoming from
Also
Public
unanimous, and I move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions on this item from anyone on the council? Hearing and seeing none, please also call the roll.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk.
That item too is adopted. Next, Resolution 4063, resolution authorizing staff to enter into lease agreements with Enterprise Fleet Management for 3 Chevy Equinoxes for an estimated 3-year cost of $57,388. It's a recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Also recommended, and this is really also a win because we have 3 vehicles which retain their value for 3 years, which upon their sale will cover the lease for a 3-year period. Move approval.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Alderman Meyer.
I do have a question. Looking at the lease that's in front of us here, I know this is going to be for a 3-year, but the lease term on that states 48.
This is the lease quote. You may recall that until we actually take delivery of the vehicle, that we don't execute the lease, so we can otherwise resolve that as a final document.
So, and the other question is that the current interest rate that's quoted here, does that get adjusted when the vehicles actually come, when we actually sign the lease for that? Okay, because the current 3-year is a little bit less than what they're quoting right here on this one, so. But it will be adjusted when it comes in. Okay.
I'm assuming that the terms of the lease are just a typo, but if that changes anything in any substantive manner, we'd bring it back.
Well, you just want to make sure because there's different residuals for 36 and for 48 normally. So you'd want to make sure that we're getting
Sure.
what it is for 36 because it's a higher residual rate for 36 and 48.
Makes sense. I think we'll look into it, and if it changes anything, I think we've got time, because they're not going to be ready next month anyway. Any further questions? Good catch. So we had a motion and a second. Okay, I'm just making sure. I don't want to lose track. Any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Telako.
That too is adopted. Resolution 4064, a resolution approving the First Amendment to an intergovernmental agreement between Mequon, the City of Mequon and the Village of Thiensville, establishing the Southern Ozaki Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department. There's a recommendation forthcoming from Public Safety earlier this evening.
And this resolution was unanimously approved by the Public Safety Committee this evening.
Thank you for that. Is
Move
there
approval.
a motion
Second.
and a second? Any further comments or questions on any of these items? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That resolution is too adopted. Next, Resolution 4065, a resolution approving the purchase of 4 2024 Ford Police Interceptor sport utility vehicles from Ewald Automotive Group, Hartford, Wisconsin, and the purchase and installation of associated equipment from General Communications of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in an amount not to exceed of $195,876. Recommendation from Public Safety is forthcoming.
Recommendation from Public Safety Committee this evening was unanimously for approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions, or is there
Move
a motion?
approval.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any further comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak, Alderman Telako, and Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
And that too is approved. Next is Resolution 4066, a resolution approving receipt of a donation from the Mequon Thiensville Community Foundation in the estimated amount of $19,000 for the purchase and training of a new police canine dog and other associated equipment. Recommendation forthcoming by Public Safety.
Public Safety, again, unanimously approved this item. They were very appreciative and thankful to have another police canine dog in the city. And the committee was also very appreciative of the ongoing support of the Mequon Thiensville Community Foundation of this program.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. I'd also like to echo that thanks. It's been a great partnership to have this relationship and have that service available. I know the police department loves it, and when you have the dogs, everything's easier. So, very grateful for that. So, much thanks to the Mequon Thiensville Community Foundation. I forget, was there a motion and a second? Okay. Any further comments or questions? Anyone want to echo their thanks? I'm sure we're all thankful.
I think that's unanimous.
It should be. Hopefully the vote will be too. Please call the roll.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Stralchuk,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
and Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
And that item's also approved. Congrats, Chief. It'd be nice to have another dog in the house there. Next is Resolution 4067, a resolution awarding a contract to rehabilitate 7 sewer laterals from external cleanouts in the Riverland Drive Lift Station H area to Aqualius of Green Bay, Wisconsin, in the amount of $123,027. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing or seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Stralchuk,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
and Alderman Bach.
Aye.
And that resolution is also approved. Resolution 4068, a resolution approving an award for a contract for the completion of MMSD post-sewer lateral rehabilitation reporting requirements in the Riverland Drive H and Riverland Park F lift station areas to R.A. Smith of Brookfield, Wisconsin, in the amount not to exceed of $39,062. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing or seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Stralchuk,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
and Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
That also is approved. Last resolution, 4069, a resolution awarding a contract for the inspection of 218 sanitary sewer laterals in the Ranch Road E lift station area to R.A. Smith of Brookfield, Wisconsin, in the amount not to exceed of $186,804. This was also recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission. Is there a motion?
Move to approve Resolution 4069.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye when your name is called.
Alderman Gebhardt, Alderman Stralchuk,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
and Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
That too is approved. On to ordinance. We have just one ordinance. Ordinance 2023-1652, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Mequon Municipal Code, incorporating various changes resulting from the First Amendment to an intergovernmental agreement establishing the Southern Ozaki Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department. This was recommended by the Public Safety Commission on June 13th, 2023, recommended by Southern Ozaki Fire and Emergency Medical Services Board on July 12th, and the first reading was last month at Common Council on June 13th. Does anyone have any questions, or is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. No comments or questions from anyone? Going once, twice? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That ordinance is adopted. We have no specified unfinished business from prior meetings. We have no specified new business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.